Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Well, first of all, I would like to ask all of you, those of you who can put in the chat, how is the connection from my side? How is the sound and how is the picture? Because mainly today I really would like to focus, of course, on Scott Ritter and his answers to my questions and this discussion we will have. But I just want to know if it's good so we can start our live stream. Welcome back to my channel, Scott. Thank you so much again for finding time for me today.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Scott, I would like to start not with Poland, although Poland is the main topic of this live stream. I would like to start with what happened to Prigozhin.
Well, I mean, until they officially come out and confirm that he was on the aircraft that crashed, I can't speak with any definitive knowledge. It indicates the situation indicates that Prigozhin, Dmitry Utkin, who is his principal military commander, one of his civilian deputies who ran logistics, and four other senior military commanders of the Wagner organization were on board an aircraft together with a three-person crew. That aircraft crashed under suspicious circumstances, and Prigozhin is no more. He is dead. Now I don't think it's going to be a question of his demise, but the question of how did this happen? Why did this happen? Why did it happen now? What does this mean? And at this stage in the game, I mean, I'm all in favor of speculation, as long as people understand that it's speculation. What I don't want to do is get involved in going down the path of theorizing what could have happened and have people come back and say, but you said. I'm stating right up front, anything we go on from this point regarding Mr. Prigozhin is 100% speculation, because none of us, at least me, we're not aware of not just some of the facts, but we're not aware of any of the facts.
But just to end on this topic, don't you think the timing of it is because of the meeting of BRICS in South Africa, to distract from that, the importance of it?
No, not at all. I think the timing of it relates to Yevgeny Prigozhin's release of a video showing himself in the desert in Africa and trying to talk up the role that Wagner is playing in Africa. The people on the airplane with him were all African hands. His trip was clearly about Wagner's footprint in Africa. And I think that when all the dots are connected, it's going to be what Wagner was doing in Africa that contributed to his demise, not anything dealing with BRICS.
Thank you, Scott. So I want to ask you, did you have a chance to watch the military parade in Poland, in Warsaw?
I saw parts of it. I'm going to be honest, and I didn't sit through the whole thing, but I've seen photographs and things of that nature. Yeah.
And what you were thinking, as much as you were able to see, what were your thoughts about it?
Do you really want to know?
Honest. Yes, I really want to know.
I mean, the Polish military can put on a fine parade, but those are dead men walking if they ever entered a large-scale ground combat in Europe. I have no respect for the Polish military as a professional fighting organization, not because I'm disrespectful to Poland, but because I need to say this, because the Polish government is engaged in posturing that creates the possibility, some would say probability, of Poland going to war. And I just want to be straight up honest with everybody that they're dead men walking, literally, every single one of them. Look good on parade. I wonder how many hours it took to practice that. Those are hours they should have been spending in the field training for modern combined arms warfare against a peer level or superior force if they want to have any chance of surviving. But the Polish army doesn't do that. They're not trained for that. They're not equipped for that. They're not organized for that. And a parade like this gives people an artificial sense of strength, but there's no strength behind that military.
Thank you for saying this. I very much appreciate this. It came from your mouth. It's a value. If it would came from my mouth, that would be questionable. In one of our previous interviews, you said that you believed, and that time you said, in the wisdom of Polish generals to avoid a major conflict. However, Polish-speaking President Duda just announced huge changes in the command system of the armed forces, and it happened on August 14th, which is the day before this parade. And what is this? I actually recorded video about it. The presidential bill was submitted to Polish parliament, that is called Sejm, and it mentions, for example, introduction by the heads of the state, such as president and prime minister, for example, of a state of readiness of the armed forces, and martial law will not be needed for this SCAT. There are two types of readiness stated in that bill. One is a constant readiness, and another is not that constant, but still readiness. And they are preparing the country for the war. I have no doubt about it, like zero doubt about it. I would like you to, because I know many Polish people will be watching this video, I would like you to tell those Polish people now, if you can, if Russia is in the position and situation when they launch just one strike on Poland as a result of reacting to something, and they create this buffer zone. What would this mean for the people, for the country? Not maybe every country in Europe, but particularly for Poland. What would this mean?
Well, I would just ask people in Poland to open up their history books and see what it means to be Poland, geographically located where Poland is. You're sort of right in the middle of where armies transit. You know what it feels like to have a Russian army marching on your soil. You know what it feels like to have a French army marching on your soil, a German army marching on your soil, a Soviet army marching on your soil. You've been a battleground and you've paid the price. Your cities have been destroyed. Your farms have been left fallow because the farmers are dead. Your children have been parentless. Your children have grown up in orphanages. You've seen your population decimated time after time after time. You're finally in a position of prosperity and continued prosperity. You are part of a European community that one had hoped had foregone the concept of European conflict, and yet you're promoting it right now. Russia isn't threatening Poland at all. Zero. Russia has not issued one threat to Poland. Russian troops aren't threatening to go into Poland at all. Russia doesn't want to go into Poland. Neither does Belarus. They don't threaten Poland at all. Poland is the only nation here that is vocalizing threats. You don't see Belarus going into general mobilization or advanced states of readiness because of the Polish threat, and yet Poland is the only nation threatening anybody. It's Poland that's threatening. There's a, fool around, find out, play, stupid games, win stupid prizes. I could go on and on and on. Hey, Poland, you're playing a stupid game and you're going to get a stupid prize, but that prize is going to be measured in dead Polish citizens, in destroyed Polish cities. Russia doesn't fool around. If you want to play the game, if you want to go bark at the big dog and pretend you want to bite the big dog, don't be surprised when the big dog turns around and snaps your head off, because that's what's going to happen to you. And in this case, it isn't going to be the kind of damage that can be undone in a decade or two. It's not going to be like the rebuilding of Warsaw. I bet there's still people alive in Poland that remember the destruction of Warsaw. and understood what it took to rebuild Warsaw and how painful that experience was to see a new city rise out of the ashes of an old city that you once loved and lived in. No, Poland will become a radioactive wasteland because the next war, if it's fought between NATO and Russia, will be a nuclear war. And Poland will probably be among the first nations because it has opted to be the forward edge of the battle zone for NATO against Russia. You're the ones who voluntarily accepted an American corps headquarters and brigades of American soldiers permanently stationed on your borders. Those soldiers aren't there as tourists. They're not there to shake your hand. They're there because NATO is posturing in an aggressive manner against Russia. And if Poland wants a war with Russia, war will come to Russia or to Poland, but it will be the hell of the 4 men of the apocalypse. They will ride down on you, and you will be visited by every plague possible, including the nuclear plague. Poland will be terminated as a nation state. So think about that as you head to your election and you vote for who's going to govern you. Because if you vote for the people that are currently in power, they're positioning Poland to be wiped off the face of the earth.
Thank you, Scott. Everything what you just said, every single word, pretty much, is what Maciej Maciek says. And I mentioned him to you a while ago. He is the one who is helping Poland not to go to war, but live in peace and prosperity. And this is the grassroots movement that's taking place in Poland as we speak right now. There are many, many people who are very aware of what's going on, what agenda is being projected on them. And there is approximately 30%, as he says, because he knows more than I do. I'm just observing this. He's in the knowing of those dynamics. 30% of the voters that are crucial because those people want friendly relationship with Russia. Okay, at least 30, which is a lot, Scott. And we don't have any party in Poland, any, that stands for peace. Now they are focusing on the campaign that should not be going on yet because it's illegal. However, they are kind of campaigning and they are focusing on Polish farmers, the grain from Ukraine. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, it's all about weapons, money, and all of this. And there is the only one person who's actually gathering people to change this reality. And we can change this. I never, ever, and you don't know this, I will tell you, I tell the audience, I never voted in my life. I know it sounds not good, but I never voted in my life in Poland. This is the first time, doesn't matter where I am physically, that I will vote for peace and prosperity. Because he said exactly what you said. The land will be burned out, there will be no life, and we will have this buffer zone that is between Germany and Russia. Everything ends. Do we really have to go this way? I don't think we have to, and we still have a choice to make, and people can do it. I want to ask you if there is a moment when, again, really, I hope hypothetically, if there is a moment when Russia has to make this decision, do we press this button or we don't, right? Which is like a nanosecond. Is there any form of communication, in your opinion, going on between United States and Russia before this happens, before it hits Poland? I don't even want to say it, okay? But we have to think like this in order to prevent this. Is there any form of communication, or this is just their own decision? Because I don't know, like, is there any level of agreeing to do something like this?
Well, there is a hotline that exists that connects Washington, D.C. with the Kremlin. And it's supposed to be tested several times a day, where the translators, the military officers, pick up the phone and they confirm connectivity. They pass on birthday wishes, whatever. There's also other means of communicating so that data can be sent across as well. Um, the problem is that that's just a mechanism of communicating. For instance, you and I are communicating right now through the vehicle of StreamYard, using online cameras, using internet connectivity, etc. So we have the potential of having a conversation. But you and I have a history of talking together, and I think we have developed a rapport, a trust, an affinity, so that not only can we talk to each other, but we enjoy talking to each other, and we trust each other's motives in engaging in this conversation. But if instead you and I had a history of having conversations where I lied to you, you lied to me, you said things to me, but I found out you were doing other things behind my back, I did the same, that you knew that I was plotting to, seize your property, etc. The fact that we can talk doesn't mean we're communicating. Does it mean we're listening? Do we have the trust and confidence in one another to ensure that when we need the words to matter, that the other side is going to be willing to receive them? And right now, even though the United States and Russia can communicate, there's that they can technically interface. They can't communicate anymore because there's no dialogue, there's no trust, there's no foundation of commonality that allows genuine communication to take place. And that's the problem, because when the time comes where we've detected Russian Iskander missiles moving to the field, and we've intercepted indications that Russia's getting ready to launch nuclear weapons, and we want to call up and say, let's stop this nonsense. And we pick up the phone, they pick up, and we start saying, hey, 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 and they're going, ain't listening to you. You had plenty of time to do this beforehand. We're done talking. Click, push, bam, Poland's gone. Poland has put its fate, its future, in the hands of idiots in Washington, D.C., who have destroyed any ability of the United States and Russia to communicate effectively. And this isn't something that's just been happening recently. When Donald Trump came in, and I know there's a lot of people out there going, Trump, we really want Trump. We really want Trump. He'll save the day. He won't. Donald Trump came in, and even it started under Barack Obama, though, but Trump furthered it. There was a time when we talked about bureaucracies, the establishment, and everybody's like, boo, establishment, boo. But you know what? Go to the Russian Foreign Ministry, go to their North America section, go to their America section, and then go down the phone book and look at all the foreign affairs officers that they have there, all the diplomats, experts, guys who are educated, who travel the United States, know the United States. Each one occupies a desk. This is the desk for agriculture. This is the desk for this. And in the State Department, they have their compatriots, their colleagues, their counterparts. And those desks are staffed. So it used to be that if Lavrov had a question, or if Secretary of State, Blinken had a question, they'd go, gosh, we're working on trade policy here. What was Russia thinking again about that grain production? What's going on? And the guy going, got this, boss. Pick up the phone, call up his guy and say, hey, we're working an issue here. Tell me again what your grain policy is on this. Do you have a document you can give me? Hey, yeah, boss, just a second. Boom, here it is. Boom. Hey, thanks a lot. See, it's reciprocal, because I ask for information. Then when they call me up, I give them information. I give them top secret information away, but we're communicating and we're building trust. And now I go up and I say, yeah, here's the documents. They act on it. Things work in harmony. Because the real diplomacy isn't between Lavrov and Blinken. By the time they meet, there should have been staff work taking place for a long time by all these people down that phone list who are talking with one another, making sure that there's commonality of position. Under Obama, they just stopped answering the phone. The Russians told me straight up, we call and no one's answering the phone. Or leave a message, we'll get back to you. They never got back. But under Trump, there was no one there to answer the phone. See, under Obama, it's just that they're not talking. Trump never staffed these positions. He was just like, I'm not interested in it. I run foreign policy. I do this. And so the Russians are sitting there going, hey, they disconnected the phone. There's no one for me to talk to. And then what the Russians did is say, well, we can't just let you sit there in a desk and do nothing. We're going to reassign you. And when they reassign you, all that skill set that you've developed over the years, the interaction, the expertise, the insights, it's flushed down the toilet of life as you pick up your new skill set. And today we have muscles, diplomatic muscles that used to work together in harmony. So the left arm was as big as the right arm and they were working out. But then what happened is the American arm stopped working out. It got atrophied. And the Russian arm's going, I'm not flexing alone. And it went off to do something else. Now we have a diplomatic body that's total atrophy. It's not being used. It's not being exercised. And Poland wants that mess to save your day. You're hoping that America will somehow be the mature superpower you think it is. We're not. We are an immature teenager throwing a tantrum under the influence of narcotics or alcohol. We're anything but the responsible adult you think we are.
Scott, thank you so much for sharing this. This is insane. Literally, there is no one in this position to communicate.
Under the Trump administration wasn't. Under the Biden administration, I think they've staffed some of the positions, but nobody's talking. The Russians have no interest to talk to us. Yeah. You talk to people you trust.
It's insane. It's insane to me. There is zero place to connect and to even, there is no diplomacy. There is nothing. It's nothing.
To show you how bad it is. Biden has apparently tried to reach out to Putin. Now, normally in the real world, if a national leader of the importance of a Joe Biden wants to talk to Putin, Putin will take that call because it's the president of the United States. And of course, Russia should be concerned about what the president of the United States is thinking. It doesn't mean that Russia has to agree, but they should be like, wow, Joe Biden's calling us. I think I want to take that call, find out what's going on. Putin's not even answering the phone, refuses to talk. Why? Because America has become totally insignificant to Russia. Not insignificant meaning America doesn't have power, but Russia doesn't care anymore. How many times does Russia have to hear America say, we condemn you for this, we condemn you for that, we sanction you here, we sanction you there, we're trying to destroy you, we're trying to do this, we're trying to do that. So Russia finally just goes, it's the mute button. And not just the mute button, but turn the damn thing off. I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't care because I've gotten on with my life. Russia just was part of this BRICS meeting. 6 new members. Could have been more, but they picked 6. They're growing in a major way, redefining the global interaction. Hey, Poland, you picked the wrong side. Should have picked the winning team. You're on the losing team. You're trying to be part of the G7. You should be part of BRICS. You're trying to make sure you're an important member of EU. They don't like you. They're willing to destroy you, have you blown up, be the buffer zone. Why don't you jump over here to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization? They'll at least bring you to the meeting and listen to what you have to say and care about you. Not America. We don't care about you. Please, Poland, look at the situation in Ukraine. Do you not understand that we simply sacrificed 400,000 Ukrainian soldiers for nothing? That we don't care? There's not a single American crying. There's not anything going on in America because our hearts don't feel it because we don't care. And if you think that we care about you, but we don't care about the Ukrainians, you're wrong. You're the same. You're the exact same thing in our minds. You're Eastern Slavs. You don't matter. We don't like you. We just want to use you for our edification, for our glory. And once we're done with you, once you've lost your utility, we will flush you down the same cesspool hole that we flushed Ukraine down. That's what you need to understand. We're not here for you. We don't care about you. We don't want to do good by you. You exist to please us. You exist to empower us. And when you stop being useful, and believe me, once this war in Ukraine is over, Poland has stopped being useful, we're going to leave you like we leave everybody.
And unfortunately, I agree with everything. It's hard for me to say it, but it's true. Scott, if you see this scenario now, do you think there will be any attempt from Polish side to, I don't even know how to frame this question. How do you see this really going? at this moment? Because it doesn't look they are calming down. Actually, they might be slightly, because now they focus on the election coming, but after, full steam ahead, in my opinion. They're changing the laws as we are here, you know. So how do you see this from your expertise looking at it? How this might go?
Well, again, I still believe that the Polish senior officers know the reality, that not a single one of them is self-delusional enough to believe that they can fight the Russians in a stand-up fight and prevail, that they will die. Look, any good military officer, given the task of defending his or her country, will say we need to be prepared to defend Poland from all threats. So if Russia wants to invade, then we need to be prepared to defend ourselves from any Russian invasion or Belarusian incursion. That's cool. I'm with that. But that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about having Polish forces advance into Western Ukraine, for Polish forces to impose their will on Ukrainian territory in a manner which could lead to conflict with Russia, in which case Poland will die. That's a whole different kind of war that's going on. And no Polish general worth his salt or her salt is going to say, yeah, we're good with that. They would all, I believe, give the same counsel. Sir, we're years away from doing that. We need billions of dollars of investment in equipment, training. We need to restructure our entire armed forces, et cetera. That's not going to happen between now and the Polish election. So what's happening right now, I believe, is posturing done by the Polish government to instill fear into the Polish people so that they vote for the Polish government that's currently in power to protect them. They're exploiting your ignorance. They're exploiting your fear. They're posturing in a way because everything they're doing, none of it's going to create a military capable of defeating the Russians. All of it's done, I believe, just to flex muscle. To be, if you're going to say a threat exists, you have to at least pretend that you're trying to prepare to beat that threat. And that's what I see that's happening. I think that they're trying to instill a sense of fear by passing laws that indicate a threat exists worthy of changing the laws to respond to it. To have these military parades, to buy these new tanks from South Korea and other equipment. But I just think it's posturing. I could be wrong, of course, but I don't see Poland actually trying to commit suicide, which trying to build a military that could fight the Russians is suicide. I see this is a Polish government, and from what I'm reading, I could be wrong again. I don't have my thumb on the pulse of Poland, but there's a chance they could lose this election. It's not a guaranteed victory for them. They're worried. And so I see them doing things designed to reinforce the postures that they've been taking over the past couple of years to say everything we did was right because there's this Russian threat. We now do need to redouble our commitment to security, and we're the guys you have to trust. But my understanding is that there is some pushback within Poland on this, and that these guys are feeling as if they don't continue to play to their strength, the other side could challenge them effectively at the polls. You might tell me that I'm smoking dope and I'm wrong, and that the government is strong as it's ever been. But my feeling is that they're running a little scared, and that's why they're doing these extreme policies.
Yes, I agree with a lot what you said. However, there is a pushback. However, people still are under the impression, which is complete illusion, that this pushback is coming from any party that is currently in the Polish parliament. Okay, there is no opposition that is pro-peace, Scott. None of the parties in Poland that exist are for peace. They are none. So there is literally no one in the position of power or decision-making who could change any outcome if the government decides, okay? There is no such a thing, except what I just said, is Ruch Dobrobytu i Pokoju, which is the movement for prosperity and peace, right there, prosperity and peace. In short, it's called DEEP in Polish, like deep in English, DEEP. There is no one who is saying that they should not strengthen the army, they should not buy more tanks or planes. By the way, the ones that they are buying from Korea, Polish citizens, Scott, didn't know the level of debt they took from Korea's banks, if not for Korean parliament. From Korea, they learn, from Korea, not from Polish government. So now, okay, let's see. I really hope it won't happen. However, the laws are changing, not just this law. There are many other laws that will be affecting citizens of Poland. But there is one article I came across this morning. Oh, by the way, brand new signature that Polish-speaking president soon is about to sign is how to zip the mouths of every journalist who doesn't say what they want. Okay, so yeah. We have an article. I want to read this to you and ask you, what is this about? Because I'm not quite sure, and I know that you will understand this. Ukrainian legislature relaxes rules for imports of military equipment from European Union and NATO. And this says that this bill aims to simplify the procedure for cross-border movements of the armed forces of Ukraine that are sent for military exercises or other temporary assignments, and military equipment and other goods from the member countries of the EU and NATO. Scott, can you tell me, one second, I have to find you because I'm like clicking everywhere. Okay, can you tell me, does this mean that there will be less restrictions on the web crossing the borders?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing here is an effort by Ukraine to parallel agreements that had to be put in place by NATO nations recently, actually, when the United States began the process of responding to the allegations of a Russian threat post 2014, I believe, or even 2008 with the Russian war on with Georgia. The NATO expansion had taken Cold War logistics that we had. We would land in Hamburg, we would land in Antwerp, but we would be able to flow from the Netherlands into Germany with no problem. We'd be able to land in Hamburg and go into our German bases with no problem. But now we moved into Poland and we moved into other nations, and it didn't matter because we were just having exercises, and of course exercises have long lead times, and so agreements are made, the equipment lands at a port, customs and agricultural inspectors come in, inspect the equipment, certify it as being clean, letting it go, all that stuff, because it's peacetime, it's training. But NATO started talking about the need for rapid deployment. And what we found is, as NATO troops started moving across Europe, as they got to a border, people were saying, stop, got to inspect. And the guys are like, but it's an emergency deployment. We need to get over there. Stop, got to inspect. Poland was guilty of this. All that equipment coming out of Germany would stack up as the Poles went, all right, let's see your paperwork. Open up the truck. Let's make sure you're not bringing in, banned stuff. All this stuff. I mean, that's what sovereign nations do, but it slowed it down. And so they started passing rules to streamline this, to allow for the rapid movement of troops involved in exercises, or as they said, short-term situations, things of that nature. So I think they're just trying to replicate the rules. Some of this can be done for politics. But I think it's also done as a way of facilitating the rapid movement of forces across the border without creating a international crisis between two potential allies. So if Poland ever decided to send an armored division into Ukraine, that they wouldn't be stacked up at the border going through a customs check. They would just go. It's not about facilitating the transfer of weapons, so to speak. That's already done. All that paperwork's done in advance. Those are logistic. This is talking about taking troops out of barracks, putting them on the road, and driving them across the border, ensuring that there's no delays with customs and border control, things of that nature.
So from my very simple understanding, this could be that you actually bring more soldiers from another country, for example, like Poland, throw them into this conflict to bring fresh meat to be sacrificed.
I would say it this way. I think the most likely scenario for Polish involvement in Ukraine will come when the Ukrainian army collapses. And we're closer to that point now than we have ever been. I think the Ukrainian government has just acknowledged that they've exhausted their current mobilization, that there's nothing left. They don't have any more equipment. They don't have any more troops. They have nothing. So in order to sustain this fight, there's going to have to be not only a new mobilization, but a new provision of equipment for whatever troops are mobilized. It's not like Ukraine's sitting with a field full of tanks, but nobody to drive them. They don't have any tanks and they don't have any people. They're done. And unless something's done to solve this problem, Ukraine's going to run into what I call the broken string problem. If you just imagine the front line being 1,000 miles long and each side's military force is represented by a string, if you have continuous string along there, that means you're covering that frontage. But what happens as you run out of string? You got to cut it, which means there are going to be gaps with no string. And then as the battlefield expands, again, a straight line this long has this one piece of string. But if the enemy comes in and breaks through, you now have this bow, this bulge. You need more string for that. The Russians are now bowing the line. The Ukrainians don't have the troops to fill that string. The Ukrainian troops are dying in the counteroffensive. So there's no extra string to go in and tie things off. And what we're seeing right now is that the Ukrainians are unable to hold this line. And there could come a time in the very near future where Ukraine is required to precipitously withdraw to the Dnieper River to make that their defensive line. And when they do that, you're going to see millions of people be displaced, moving towards Poland. And what happens when, because I think Poland is already saturated with Ukrainian refugees, just like Europe is. There's really not only no place for them to go, but there's no willpower to absorb more. So what happens when another 5, 6, 7, 8 million people show up at your border screaming to get in? You can't let them in. There's nothing to do. So there will be pressure for Poland now to respond and help create a humanitarian zone. But that humanitarian zone can't just be about putting tents up. You have to guarantee these 5 million people that they're going to be safe, or else they're coming across the border anyways. And so that means you're going to have to project power into Western Ukraine. And you can't project power if your troops have to wait at the border to clear customs. So what I think they're doing is creating the conditions that would allow for the rapid deployment of Polish troops into Western Ukraine, not to fight the Russians, but to create this humanitarian zone where 6 million refugees could be cared for without fear of attack by the Russians. But here's becomes the problem. Then you have to put a no-fly zone up there, because nobody's going to put troops on the ground and then say, well, the Russians can go ahead and fly over us. That means that in addition to aircraft going in there, you're going to have, extend your air defense. And now we have NATO military warfighting capacity going outside of NATO boundaries into Ukrainian territory. And there's a real risk that will lead to a military on military confrontation. So, nothing should be viewed in isolation. This measure to make the transit of soldiers and equipment easier isn't just an issue of compliance. It's something that could lead to dire consequences for Poland, because if Russia decides that they're not going to respect that humanitarian zone, and Poland hasn't gotten Article 4 permission from the United Nations or from NATO to do that, if Russia bombs those Polish troops, they're not bombing NATO. Poland has no protections. And if NATO chooses to intervene, then it's Poland that's going to be destroyed. So everything has its consequences. Again, I come back to what I said early on. Fool around, find out. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Poland is fooling around and playing a stupid game.
So it looks to me like, Poland, and you told this to my viewers so many times from the beginning of this, Scott, that we had Polish mercenaries fighting in Ukraine. Many of them died, and thousands. But it seems now, listening to you, that there will be another form of Poland being engaged in this conflict. It's just a question of in which way, because this way or the other, they're going to be engaged deeper into this conflict.
One of the dangers of allowing this Ukrainian conflict to go on unimpeded, like we're doing right now. Look, there's no rational player that can say, look, if we just give Ukraine another month, they can win this thing. I know Ben Hodges says that. There are other people out there saying, but they're propagandists. There's no rational, responsible person looking at the situation on the ground who can say, just give them a little bit more time. They got this. They got this. Ladies and gentlemen, they don't have it. Ukraine isn't going to win. Ukrainians, as I said, the Ukrainians are running out of everything. The Russians have 250,000 troops. They have yet to commit to the battle. Ukraine's on its seventh wave of mobilization. Russia's done a single partial mobilization of 300,000. They don't need to mobilize anymore because they have so many volunteers, signing up for their military. So the Russians have the resources to see this fight through to the end. Ukraine doesn't. And for NATO to continue to pressure Ukraine to stay in the fight is not only criminal from the standpoint of the numbers of Ukrainian soldiers whose lives are going to be lost, but you're also ensuring that when the collapse comes, rather than trying to prevent the collapse by having a negotiated settlement where Ukraine still has a semblance of control over its territory so that people aren't compelled to become refugees. If you continue this fight so that you have a military collapse combined with perhaps a political collapse, that will be a societal collapse, and you'll see the refugees move. Poland is basically engaged where they're making it a preordained outcome, that there will be a collapse and a refugee crisis compelling them to deploy troops in for a humanitarian buffer. It doesn't have to be that way, but Poland is doing everything possible to ensure that it ends that way. But I don't think they fully understand the ramifications of what that means and what the potential consequences and outcomes are for Poland, none of which will be good.
So either they are that crazy or they are that corrupted. There is no other way.
Or both.
Or both.
Or both.
Or both. Okay. So the only way.
There's a third option. I don't like to say it. My wife gets mad at me when I use language like this. But they're stupid. Just plain up stupid. And I think at this stage of the game, because of what we're talking about is suicidal. So even corrupt people, why are you corrupt? Because you want to make money. Why do you want to make money? Because you want to live that rich person lifestyle. You want the car, you want the sexy boyfriend, girlfriend, you want the vacations, and none of that happens if you're dead. So most corrupt people don't engage in corruption to commit suicide. And the same thing with, power. It doesn't do you any good to flex and be seen this way if you're dead. So anybody who's engaged in these kind of activities, knowing that the end result is you'll die, and they still do it, means they're stupid.
So one more here, not only stupid, but cruel, because they actually already protected themselves. They created ways of exiting the mess that they are creating, Scott. They already done this. It's a list of people who exits first with family members, and then there is a list who is the secondary of importance, and then the rest of the citizens of the country. So if we don't, if we vote for the same people, doesn't matter, those that people know in Poland, none of those people, I just want to say it here because I don't know how many Polish people will be watching, I hope many, none of them is going to save your butt. That's what I'm saying right now. None of them. You have to vote for people who stand for peace. Because if you don't, you're gonna have tension, ongoing tension, or even some buffer zone made out of your country.
Yeah, I would ask the Polish farmers to, who farm the fields that are adjacent to the Ukrainian border and the depth, just to pick up the phone and call your Ukrainian counterpart who farmed the fields outside of the, um, the city of Robotyno, or the village of Robotyno. Now people say, well, where's Robotyno, Scott? It's in Zaporizhia province. It's a nice little small little town surrounded by farm fields. It happens to be the epicenter of the Ukrainian counteroffensive. The counteroffensive started there, and it's finishing there now. The final Ukrainian reserves are committed there. But the beautiful farm fields there aren't being plowed. There's nothing going on. They're lying fallow because of this war, a war that Ukrainian farmer never saw coming, never once in his life. And as he farmed those fields, as he yielded those crops, he brought them in from harvest, did he think, wow, in 2021, 2022, 2023, I'm not going to be able to farm my fields because there's going to be a war going on that's polluting my fields with unexploded ordnance. And even when the war ends, I'll never be able to farm these fields because I put myself and my tractor, my livestock at risk until these fields are cleaned of ordnance, and that could take decades. Didn't think about that because he never imagined it. So if you're a Polish farmer right now, understand this. You're going to lose your livelihood, guaranteed. Once war comes to you, and war will come to you, your fields will be fallow. Even if you're lucky enough to survive, you may not survive. You may die. You will probably become a refugee. But even as a refugee, you might be thinking, life will be good once I get back to my farm, once I get back to my livelihood. It's over, guys. Your farm will never be farmed again in your lifetime, ever, because it's going to be cluttered with munitions, unexploded munitions, landmines, or just turned into radioactive dust. And it doesn't matter anyways. But so every Polish farmer that wakes up every morning and says, it's a great day to be alive here in Poland, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to do my patriotic duty, plant crops and grow these crops, nurture the land, bring in the crops, feed my people. I feel good about myself. And I'm not being facetious, because farming is some of the toughest work in the world and some very important work. You're not going to be able to do that because of your stupid government. It claims to be trying to defend you, but understand that the process of defending you requires you to sacrifice everything. Your life, your field, your family, everything is gone. Everything is made null and void by the stupidity of your government. Whereas if you simply learn to live in peace with your neighbors, you'd be able to farm forever.
Yes. Thank you, Scott, so much. And I want to say thank you for today. We will end this live now because I don't want to take more of Scott's time. And I think everything of importance was already said. I want to ask you before we go, Scott, because all of those people who are following you and watching you and appreciate you, they remove your YouTube channel, right?
Oh, yeah, two of them. Yeah, my two channels. I was doing the Scott Ritter show, which was I thought was a really cool show where I was interviewing Russian voices and introducing Russian voices that otherwise wouldn't be heard to an American and Western audience. That's it, man. Done. They shut down. Now, they closed that. They called that hate speech. So apparently the process of interviewing a Russian voice is hate. And then Ask the Inspector. Now, I'm not going to say it's the greatest show on the internet. I know it's not, because I'm involved and I am literally one of the least refined people in the world. But it had its little niche. We had, 70,000 people subscribing. But what was cool about the Ask the Inspector show is it was literally interactive, meaning that people say, I got a question. Well, come on the show, ask your question. You may not like the answer. I admit that I'm an idiot many times, and I could just say things that are whatever. It doesn't matter. I try to be accurate. I try, but the point is, we're interacting. We're having a discussion, a dialogue that isn't me just issuing a monologue about blah, 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 what Scott Ritter wants you to hear. I'm saying things and you get to hold me to account. I thought it was a really, really cool show. And I think the people that participated in it thought it was a cool show too. But apparently, the concept of interaction of this nature was deemed to threaten the community standards. Now, the interesting thing about both of these is they never said what we did. They just shut us down simultaneously, knock it off, you're done. Now, some people will say, are you appealing? No, and I'll tell you why. I don't want to be part of a community where I have to look over my shoulder before I say something. I don't want to be part of a community that thinks that it can indirectly influence the content of what I say out of the fear of a potential future ban. Because a part of the appeal process is I have to convince them that what I did wasn't wrong. Dear YouTube, I didn't violate your rule. This is what I did. And they're going to come back and say, well, we've looked at it. Okay, we're not going to ban you this time. But what they've done is create a process where I have to think, oh gosh, am I going to trigger the YouTube ban monster again? I ain't playing that game. So YouTube, look, you send me a YouTube link, I'll put it out there. I support anybody that's on YouTube. I understand it's a platform. It's the best platform out there in terms of the technical aspects of this. But I'm not going to allow YouTube to directly or indirectly influence what I have to say. We were approached again. It's sort of cool, but we were approached by a YouTube talent agent. Doesn't work for YouTube, but sort of does. He said, I interface with YouTube at levels above your normal appeal. So if you have a problem, you hire me and I can make the phone ring where it matters. And we're like, ooh, really? You can do all that? And then they bring on the talent scout. Hi, I've looked at your program. This is $1 million asset you've got here. We can make $1 million easy with this. And we're like, I'm sitting there going, honey, how much money we make last year? A lot less than $1 million, right? Yeah, $1 million sounds really good. I just married my daughter. I didn't marry her. Held a wedding. Very expensive things, weddings. So I'm like, $1 million bucks? Tell me more. How do I make $1 million? And they got into all the things we had to do structurally. And I'm like, I'm sort of happy with Ask the Inspector, the simple format. No, we're going to do this, that, paywalls, boom, 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 click, click, click. And I'm going, all right, what would I do for $1 million? And I'm being honest. I'm like, okay, maybe we could do some of the structural stuff. I don't know, but $1 million bucks, God, that's a big lure. And then they came up with the thing. They said, but now there's an American comedian, George Carlin. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's passed away, but he back in the 70s did this really cool skit, the 7 words you can't say on TV. I'm not going to say them here either, but it's just a funny skit. The things you can't say. YouTube hit me with the 10 things you can't talk about. Now, 7 of the 10 things they hit me with, I don't talk about anyways on a regular basis. Again, in Ask the Inspector, if you ask me a question, you shall get an answer. Usually the answer is, I don't know, because there is a lot I don't know about. But sometimes I say, I don't know, but I find that interesting. We'll put an asterisk next to it, and I'll do the research and get back to you. But 3 of the things I do talk about. And I said, we're done. Because I will never, ever, ever put profit ahead of principle. Okay, I have a principle here. I don't claim to be the world's greatest thing about anything. I'm not. There's people out there smarter than me. There's people out there who are damn better looking than me. There's people out there that sound better than me. Almost everybody has a better studio than I have. Everybody has better connections. I get it. I know where I stand in this world. But I will say that I'm a principled person. And that when I speak honestly about issues that I at least think I know something about. I try not to talk about things that I don't know about. So I think that there's, I have a principled stance that's fact-based, seeking to move us towards the truth using a fact-based narrative. And they were telling me I can't do that. And so you know what? I don't care if it's $1 million, $2 million, $5 million. I ain't going to play that game. They tried to bribe me back during the lead up to the Iraq War. I met with Paul Wolfowitz. You might know the name. And he offered me a hell of a deal. I got to tell you, I was like, that's a good deal. Apparently it's the standard package they offer to upcoming people to lure them into the system. It was offered to me, and it was more than $1 million. It was less than 10 million, but it was more than $1 million. But it required me to lie. And I just said, I can't lie. I mean, I could tell a white lie. Honey, how do you like my haircut? Baby, that's the best haircut you've ever had in your life. Looking good. I could tell the white lie, but I'm not going to tell the evil dark lie, one that has real meaning and consequence. So, oh, by the way, if my wife's watching this, I really do like your haircut, so don't think anything other than that. But the point is that I really do like it, but I asked her to get it cut. But I'm in trouble now. But anyways, the point is, I'm not going to sit there and lie. They wanted me to lie about Saddam Hussein and weapons of mass destruction, which was a fundamental issue, and I wasn't going to do that. YouTube wanted me to lie about the Ukraine conflict, and by lying, by omitting things, by saying I can't talk about things, I can't say things that put forward a stance that's sympathetic to Russia, even though I have said that Russia's on the right side of history, that facts align with Russia. I'm not allowed to say that now. I'm not allowed to talk about those facts. So I'm just not going to play the game. I'm not going back to YouTube. I don't care if they call me today and say, hey, forget about it. No, I will never forget about it. So we're on Rumble. It's a different platform. We're trying to build up an audience. It'll never ever have the I say never ever. Heck, I know it doesn't seem that it has the income producing capability of a YouTube, which means that I will continue to be a poor writer. That's okay. I've been a poor writer all my life. I'll be a poor writer going forward. $1 million. It was fun for the moment to think about it. I was like, wow, $1 million. How do you spend $1 million? I don't know. I know how to spend less than that because that's what I do every month. I spend significantly less than that. But the point is, I'm not doing this for money. If money is an unexpected consequence of this whole insanity called alternative media. When I first started doing these podcasts, I didn't even know about monetization. It didn't become a thing until YouTube contacted us and went, we're going to pay you. I was like, why? And they said, because you got enough subscribers and enough viewers. And I went, really? You're going to just send me money? Oh, yeah. And then but see, that's part of the luring in. They say, you're going to make money. And people go, wow, I can make money off of this? Yeah. Then they say, you can make a lot of money if you do it this way. And then they teach you about the algorithms and the viewership and all this stuff. And you're sitting there going, this is important to get viewership. But then they sort of insinuate, but you can't get the viewership by saying things that we don't want you to say. You got to get it this way, but we'll teach you how to get it this way. So it becomes more about shaping the message to meet the economic end of it, as opposed to staying true to the message. And that's a corrupt system. That's not free speech. Even though they may not be going out and telling people, you can't say this, you can't say that. Once people take a bite of the forbidden YouTube monetization apple, they want to keep that money coming in. And so I thank you, YouTube. I thank you for removing that possibility, because I'm going to be honest. When I was looking at how much money I had to pay for this wedding, I was like, if YouTube can help produce a check that helps underwrite that, and then I got one more daughter who's getting married down the future, I'm like, bring in the money. And I was not willing to corrupt myself, but I allowed my eyes to move off of the bubble. I drifted towards income generation. Never again. Stay true to the message, true to your content, true to what you believe. And I thank YouTube for helping me get over that hurdle, because now I don't care. I mean, if Rumble says, we're going to write you a check, I said, write it. I don't care. I'm not going to get excited about this anymore. I did that. I fell into that trap. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'll just write articles, and I'll get paid for what I write. And my family has adjusted to that, the limitations that come with writing books that nobody buys. And you do with what you do. Have a good sense of humor about it. But I'll tell you this, you ain't looking at a guy who's telling lies. You may not agree with me, but I ain't lying to you, and no money can make me lie. So I thank YouTube for this learning experience.
Thank you, Scott. And how about we will have our next live on Rumble and on local?
Oh, whatever you want. It's good. Whatever you want. It's good.
Let's do it. So just for a change, next time when I connect with Scott, we will be training a different muscle on a different side. Why not? Right?
Why not?
You gotta train it because you don't use it. Oh.
It can't just be leg day. You got to have arm day. You got to have back day. So
I wish people train their heads and their imagination also, right?
that would be nice. But
using the life experience. But Scott, so Rumble, I will find you. I to be honest, I didn't know you're on Rumble, so I found
no,
the link and I attached.
the easiest way to do it is go to scottritterextra.com and all the magic links are down there. Yeah.
Okay. Telegram and X or whatever, Twitter.
I'm still on X. They haven't kicked me off yet. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I want to say thank you to everyone who was watching. This was a very important conversation. So those of you, please share this video because there is more Polish people who actually understand English. I might actually get someone to, because I am not that savvy in this, guys, how to do the perfect translation with the subtitles, not by the Google AI, different, being translation. So I will try to translate this somehow and share this video. So there is still time to vote for the movement that stands for peace. Peace, yes, peace, no more weapons, peace and prosperity, and great relationships with all the neighbors, and that includes Russia and Germany. FYI, everybody around, okay? So thank you, Scott, so much for coming on today. Thank you, guys, and we see you in the next live on a different platform.